Good evening. So we are getting close to the release of VESC Tool 6 and firmware 6. As set the December 1st, that's the preliminary date, and if nothing serious shows up, no serious problem shows up, then that would probably happen. And one of the things that I have introduced for this release is something called VESC packages. And a VESC package is a collection of a bunch of different files that you can write to the VESC firmware on the motor controller that the firmware runs on. And it has 4 different types of components. One is a QML file, and when you connect from VESC Tool to this firmware, it can load this QML file and show a custom user interface that is described in this one. And QML is essentially JavaScript with a lot of Qt extensions, so it's kind of like you can see it as a website that you get when you connect to this firmware if you have installed that package. There is also Lisp code that you can run in the package, and that is the main thing probably I've been working on for this release. It is including a Lisp virtual machine called LispBN, written by Joel Svensson, and he has been helping out a lot with making it do all of the things that have been asking about that I want to do in the firmware. And then the package can also include some native code and some data files, and these 2 types of files, you actually include them in the Lisp file, and then you can load, for example, the native code, and you can use the data files for different things. And that is useful if you want to have something that is performance critical, then you can include that in the package. And you also don't have to have all of these. You can have a package, for example, that only has a QML file that does something custom for you. Or you can have one that only has a Lisp file that runs something in the background that you want to be running. So that is what the package looks like. And how do they look in VESC Tool? So the desktop version has a page called VESC Packages that has 3 tabs. The first one is the store, I will come back to that. And then it also has 2 tabs called Create Package, so you can select the files manually that you want to include, and you can make a description, and then you can save it as a VESC package file. And you can then send this file to someone, and they can load it with the Load Custom package. And then there is the package store, which is intended to have like kind of official VESC packages. And what this package store is it's pointing to a Git repository that I have on my GitHub currently. So if you make a pull request to this one and I review it and accept it, then your package will end up in the package store of VESC Tool. And if it does that, then anyone who opens VESC Tool can use update archive at any time, and when you do that, it will pull the latest version of the package store and get all of the packages that are included in this library. And the package store is also included in the mobile version of VESC Tool, so if you open it on the phone and you go to the rightmost tab, then you will see the packages that are in the package store, and same thing here, you can update the archive. And this is very interesting because if you're maintaining the balance package and you want to make an update, or you want to make a different package, you don't have to firstly integrate it with the rest of the firmware, and secondly wait for the next release of VESC Tool, which can take a while. I think the last 2 or 3 releases have taken 1 year each or so. So you can just make a pull request to the package store, and it will show up here for everyone who has VESC Tool instantly as soon as they update the archive. So you can manage the lifecycle of your releases yourself. And also the packages are self-contained, so you can hopefully at least maintain them kind of independently of the firmware. I will try to keep the interface as consistent as possible. And yeah, if you want to get started, I think one good point to start at would be to just go to the repository and read the description. I tried to include both details here, and then there is also if you look at the commits, I made one recently where I added the log UI package, and this kind of shows all of the different files that I changed for this package to be included, and I can go over them here. This package, by the way, the log UI package, includes a QML file that is loaded to VESC tool and some Lisp code. It doesn't have any native code, it doesn't have any data files. So first there is this build resource script where I have added a few lines to use the command line version of VESC tool to make a VESC package out of the files. And when you make a pull request here, I will make the run the build resources script, and that it should build a package for it to be included in the store. And second, there is the readme file, and here you should write the description of the package in Markdown. And interestingly, the VESC tool command line argument build package can take a Markdown file and convert it to HTML. So if you go back to this one and we look at the info for the log UI, then you can see that it has formatting and everything. And this is actually generated from the Markdown file here, so you don't have to maintain the description as two different versions. You can just make one Markdown file that shows up in the repository. And we can also show that here. So if you go to VESC packages and go to log UI, you can see the Markdown file here. That is that I just showed in the commit here. And after that, it just includes, well, there's one more file. So these are essential, and then there is also the, let's see, I think maybe it ended up at the end here, the resall.qrc file. So this is a resource file where you just add the path to your VESC package that will be included when I generate the Qt resource that is then downloaded by VESC tool. So this, the description and the build res and the readme is everything you need to make a package. But if you make nothing other than these three, then the package will be empty. It will not do anything. And in this case, the package has a Lisp file. This is quite interesting Lisp file actually. It's for a logger. It does quite a bit of dynamic stuff where I'm generating CAN devices based on a template and using a function, and that takes the list, takes one function that uses the, where is it? Well, actually I can skip that for now. But it's an interesting Lisp file to look at, and it's I'm really happy with how the Lisp BAB implementation turned out and what you can do with just the scripting there. And then in addition to that Lisp file that runs the logging and does the kind of business in the VESC itself, there is also the QML file which provides the UI, and I can show that quickly. So if we, let's see, I think I have to be connected for this to work. So we can do connect, and I will connect to the one that is on my desk here. And then if we install this one, log UI, then I have to disconnect and connect again, and then it will show this. Then it will show this page where we can select some options, and we can select the CAN ID and the log rate and so on. And how this UI works is described in the README, and what the options do. And the UI itself is described here, so you can see that it's fairly simple to make a user interface like this. You just make the layouts and you add different checkboxes and buttons and so on, and when you click on the buttons you can run some code. And one interesting thing here, when we click on, for example, the start button, I will just send a string to the Lisp script with some code, and then it will read and parse and evaluate that code. So that's easier than some other ways of communicating. And if you look at that here, we see you can see that this is the QML code running in VESC now, so we downloaded it here, and then the QML engine can communicate with Lisp VM, and that's what we did here. When you press the buttons, for example, then it will send a string that this one will convert to code and do some work here. So this communication line you have when you have created the package. And then if you want to uninstall the package, or actually there is an uninstall all button. So if I do this, then it will remove all of the QML, everything on the VESC firmware that this package included. And now if we disconnect and connect again, it will not load that UI, and it will also not load the script if there was any in its package. So yeah, I think this will be quite useful to share different programs and applications that are based on the VESC firmware that with everyone either has addressed files or making a pull request to the package store.